Yo, you wanna see something cool? No? Well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Step into the scene! No, nobody can do it like me. Zoop house plate with the kick cuisine. I was the blacktop king, 360s in my green machine. I was a kid and I was breaking down doors. Listening to Tribe, now we on a world tour. We gave them hell and now we gonna give them more. JVB, Mighty Morphin like Megazord. Yo, power like Ranger, range like Rover, strong bulldozer. Autobots roll out, hit the scene. Fresh wax on the paint, it's clean. All the gang, light up the tires. The Jay-Z's popping and spitting out fire. Never retire, stare and admire. My drip don't expire.
Oh my god, that is fire!
Let's get scratching.
There'll never be another game like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Now, that's a very hefty sentence. It's also horribly factually inaccurate. I mean, we've seen spiritual successors to any popular title out there in the gaming landscape. Every game out there, no matter how small or niche, will eventually lead to a sequel or a successor in some form. Hell, one of my favorite game franchises, the SSX series, which has been dormant since 2012, with its last installment being a bit of a disappointment amongst the fans, myself included, has a successor in the works called Tricky Madness, which, still admittedly, looks rough. It's still in early development, and is being made by one guy. Cut him some slack. It's a tried and true statement that innovative and fun games will always live on in some way. However, then why did I state that there will never be another game like Pro Skater? If it's so inaccurate of a statement, then why say it? Well, I don't know. You tell me when you think we're gonna get another game where you can grind on power lines as a kid in a wheelchair who spits insults at you like Bray and Joey V spit bars.
Bring it on, bitch!
No, I'm probably already in deep shit for that opening montage. No more. However, go check them out. The Tony Hawk franchise, not to be confused with the man, was started in a special environment. The 90s, where yes, dear viewer, despite my childish editing, boyish sounding voice, and horrible writing, is where I lived for a time. I actually played the original Pro Skater on my cousin's PS1 back when I was but a wee baby. A time where extreme sports were all the rage, Blink-182 was actually cool, and Bill Clinton got glucked inside of the Oral Office. Oops, typo. The original handful of games were works of perfection. For their time. With two that have really shown their age being Pro Skater 1 and 2. And don't get mad at me, I'm not the only one who thought this. Both games were remade not once, but twice, with the first attempt being released to poor reception and being forgotten at time. Admit it, y'all forgot about Pro Skater HD. I didn't forget though. However, the more recent of the two, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, being released to at least moderate success in 2020. But why did one fail and one succeed?
When a company sets out to do a remake, the goal should always be to make the game feel how people remember the game being played. And without having played the originals in nearly a decade, the remake led me to believe the originals played just as good as the remake. But don't let the remake fool you. The originals do not hold up to modern day standards in the slightest. Lack of reverting, no wall plants, no wall rides. Editor's note, apparently you can wall ride in the first Tony Hawk, so disregard that. No spine transfers. Hell, the first game doesn't even have manualing. Rodney Mullen weeps. However, despite this, the remake team did the biggest brain thing they could possibly do. They just added all those things in. You want a manual across the entirety of Downhill Jam? You can do that. You want a wall ride across the top of Secret Room in Warehouse? You can do that. You want to play the game for hours on end trying to recapture your ever-fleeting childhood in a vain attempt to rekindle the happiness you felt as a child that can never be sparked, and you endlessly find yourself diving further and further away from the past version of you while thinking about the person you could have been? Yeah, you can do that. But THPS 1x2 isn't just a free roam skate venture. You have the Skate Tour game mode that allows you to go back through the old challenges, with some extra ones added into the old classic maps, which all the maps got a major facelift in the past 20 years. With some looking like they've had nothing but loving care for the past 2 decades, with Warehouse going from a grimy, dingy place you'd probably get stabbed at to looking at where the next indie band would debut at.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Warehouse.
Meanwhile, maps like Mall in this game look as though they shut down shortly after they showed up in the first game. However, it makes the maps easier to identify from one from another, having their own personalities, except for 2 exceptions. That being New York and downtown, which look as though they take place just a block away from one another. Honestly, ask someone who's never played a Tony Hawk game to tell you which one of these maps is called downtown and which one's called New York, and see how long it takes them to suffer an aneurysm.
Hello, butt nuggets.
Speaking of brain damage, the contest challenges make a return. However, maybe this is just me bragging, but I felt like the contests were far too easy this time around. Playing the game for this video, I beat most of the competitions by doing just a simple 200k combo, which I get it, you don't want to alienate new players by getting them stumped when they hit Chicago's skate park, and perhaps I'm a bit too overqualified for Skate Tour. I mean, I do have 10 of the game's secret premier boards, which is not an easy feat. If only there was a game mode that allowed me to play against other skaters at my same skill level. Online play! When it works, this can be incredibly fun, with all the classic game modes of Trick Attack, Combo Mambo, and Graffiti being in the roster. You have Combo Challenge and Score Challenge, but those are just too close to their Trick and Combo counterparts that I feel they're just echo game modes. I wish we had a few other game modes in the rotation. Firefight, King of the Hill, and Horse I feel would have been welcomed additions to implement into the multiplayer, but these game modes I just mentioned are either non-existent or only relegated to the split-screen multiplayer. At least the soundtrack is good. With a remake of the first two Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, there would have been rides if the game didn't bring back the original soundtrack, which they almost fully did, with 3 originals being excluded from the list. However, in compensation, we got 37 new tracks, with a good majority being welcomed additions, with newcomers such as Less Than Jake, Billy Talent, Screaming Females, and one of my favorite shitty punk bands, Fiddlar, making it into the list along with plenty of others. You know, y'all just let me talk this long without answering the main topic of this video. Y'all just let me gush about how faithful of a remake this is. That being said, why do I think there will never be another series like Tony Hawk? Because in its heyday, it did everything right. While its contemporaries such as the Skate series had multiple successors in the 10 years since Skate 3 graced our eyeballs to various levels of success, the Pro Skater series just had so much to it that is unreplicatable. The angst of a generation that had kids glued to their screens when the X Games were on. A generation that grew up watching Viva La Bam, Scarred, and Fantasy Factory. You know, back when Rob Dyrdek was a skater. A culture that had kids all around the world skating off of roofs just because they wanted to be like their favorite skater. Chad Muska. Even in the remake, a lot of the edge and punk elements have been etched out. Your skater doesn't lose a gallon of blood when he falls, the loading menus while stylized look more like fancy art pieces rather than punk scribbles. Even the created character loadouts. I used to be able to skate around with a parrot on my shoulder, a superhero mask on, and my skull showing. Now my skater just looks like he works at Zoomies. The world has changed. It's slowly grown out of skate culture in the last 20 years. It's still there, don't get me wrong. There are some incredible young skaters out there that are pushing the boundaries that I closely follow who I would love to see added into future installments of any skate series. Those being Jeremy Green, Yuto Horigome, and my personal new favorite face, Andy Anderson. Seriously, how does he fucking do that? You know what? Fuck this. When's Skate 4 coming out? I'd like to personally thank Vicarious Visions who made this video possible. While they didn't have any direct involvement, I won the Steam copy of this game through a giveaway they hosted on their Twitter and other social media platforms, which they also sent me this pretty neat board. Also, sorry for the lack of uploads. I have a ton of videos in the work, I just need to learn to saddle my ambitions. I end up adding more and more to the script or editing every time I sit down with a project. This video was originally meant to be 2 minutes tops and be done in a weekend. It's been 3 weeks since I started. Also, I've been busy with my voiceover work, which I've been so graciously been able to work with an animator I've followed for what feels like forever. So go check out these videos I was in. Fair warning though, they are a bit strange. Anyway, more videos planned for the future, so keep an eye out for some big stuff down the line. Peace.